Hello and welcome to episode 48 of Bloggers Are Weird. I am your host, DJ Paris, from the blog thoughtsfromparis.com. And couple of things. If you ever would like to meet me in person, that's a very weird thing to say because judging by the fact I never get an email asking to meet me in person, I'm sure it's maybe on some of your minds, but you could type it out and make me feel better once in a while. But if you are just thinking about it, I have an opportunity for you. You can come do that in June at Blog U, which is going to be held June 10th through the 12th, Baltimore, Maryland. This is a blog conference, so if you are a writer, check it out. Please come. It's almost all sold out, and I happen to be one of the speakers, and I'm very excited and honored to be there. And I was going to go anyway before they even asked me to speak. So you can learn more at Blog U, that's the letter U, bloguconference.com, and act fast because tickets are in very limited quantity, and to my understanding, there's only a handful left. Today on the show, we have Harmony Hobbs of modernmommymadness.com. I can't tell you how many takes I had to do just to get that right without stumbling over it. But modernmommymadness.com. She's a really super funny and lovely person, and I'm just extremely honored to have her on the show. She's one of those people that and she, by the way, will also be at Blog U, coincidentally. So you can meet her. She was all of the talk of Blog U last year. Everyone kept saying what a lovely person she was, and I got a chance to meet her after the conference for a few minutes over a cocktail in the airport lounge. And I was like, oh my God, she is exceedingly nice. So I'm so glad to have her. And we talked a lot about various things about how she has become successful in her blog without a direct intention to sort of make this into a giant business, but she is moving very quickly up that ladder, and she talks about how she did it. And I always love those stories and they're always very similar, but first is write really good content, but she talks a lot about how she actually has built her following and also why she chooses honesty over all else. So check it out. It'll be coming in a minute. She's going to read a story first, which is super funny, and then we're going to get to her. So in honor of Harmony's recent concussion or recovery from concussion, grab a fistful of tramadol or whatever your drug of choice is. Mine is definitely tramadol, but I'm not allowed to have any. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Bloggers Are Weird is sponsored by moreblogreaders.com. Moreblogreaders.com is the home for the greatest teacher of how to build a business and get more readers for your blog, Darren Rouse. If you aren't familiar with Darren, you need to be, because over 320,000 bloggers get his newsletters. He has over 7,000 articles on his website, and he's written tons of books. In fact, when you go to moreblogreaders.com, you will see a list of Darren's books. I highly encourage you to start with 31 Days to a Better Blog. By going to moreblogreaders.com, you'll get special pricing for being a Bloggers Are Weird listener. So are you ready for more traffic and more success with your blog? Then go to moreblogreaders.com.
Dinner and a show. I have a great dad. I love my dad. He's kind and hilarious and has a fantastic Southern accent. He calls mosquitoes skeeters and says things to my kids like, "You look like you've been wallering in dirt." He always used to tell me, if you hit right, you'll only have to hit once. I think my dad is the reason why I grew up with such cowboy-like grit for a girl. He works really hard, so I don't get to see him that often, but occasionally he will take me out to eat, just the two of us. It's so nice to have that luxury to sit and talk without the constant interruption of children, and to have a reason to put on real clothes and go to an establishment where someone else will prepare and deliver my food without me having to exert any energy beyond deciding what items I want to order from the menu. Tonight I met my dad for dinner at Nuke's, which is like an upscale Jason's Deli, which is basically a glorified Subway sandwich shop. I don't know why I suggested it. He asked me where I wanted to go, and for whatever reason, I picked Nuke's. It's in a brand new building next to Starbucks, and said that's what I wanted. That's where we went. We sat in a booth right next to the floor to ceiling windows facing the parking lot. I had spinach and feta soup. He had the chef's salad, and we discussed heavy issues like what we are going to find out tomorrow morning when we meet with the oncologist to get the results of my mom's PET scan. The entire time we were eating, there was a tall, athletic looking black guy standing right on the other side of the window talking on his cell phone. He was wearing a t shirt, flip flops, and athletic shorts. My dad's back was to the man, so he didn't see him, even though he was literally 2 feet away. I have to assume the man couldn't see me. Maybe there was a reflection on the glass, because the entire time he was on the phone, his hand was glued to his crotch, which was at eye level. I tried my best to ignore him, but every time I glanced over, his hand was on his genitals, inside his shorts, outside his shorts. It's like he was doing whatever men do when they're by themselves, except he was in public, and I was trying to eat dinner, and my dad was sitting across the table from me. Let me be clear. This man wasn't pleasuring himself. It seemed like he might just be one of those nervous, penis grabby types. You know the ones. He seemed distracted. Also, race doesn't mean a thing to me, except in this particular situation. You'll find out why in a moment. As I was talking to my dad, I caught movement out of the corner of my eye, and that is when I saw an enormous black penis in person for the first time in my entire life. Now, I've seen my share of white penises, but nary a black penis. Nope, not one in all of my 35 years. I guess the guy was so involved in his conversation that he forgot where he was and just pulled that sucker free from his pants. I stopped talking, stared straight at him, and yelled, "Really? Really?" through the window, waving my hands in the air with indignation. I can ignore a lot, but I draw the line at indecent exposure. Everything moved in slow motion as he realized that people, well, just me, were trying to eat right next to his giant cock, which was out of his pants. He put it away, turned around, and casually strolled away, still talking on the phone. My dad, who was confused and looked out the window just in time to see him walk away, looked at me questioningly. "I can't even," I said, and I continued talking about whatever it was that I was talking about before I saw what I saw. Because I am a fucking lady.
So today was a big day for us because we finally got in to see the cat behaviorist, who apparently in the cat behavior circles is known as the very top veterinarian or one of them in the country, apparently, for like cat issues. So if you have a cat that you can't figure out why they're doing certain things, like he's the guy. Like he left our session and went to go head a conference. Like literally, he's like, "I got to go jump a flight. I'm keynoting a conference in Minnesota tomorrow." So,
Can I ask you something? What is your cat doing that's so concerning?
well, she is in layman's terms, she is peeing outside of her litter box, or as in veterinary terms, is inappropriate elimination. Is what it's,
Awesome. Okay.
yeah.
So what can be done
So,
about that?
oh, many things. Shockingly, none of them free.
That is amazing.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. So anyway, I don't want to bore our audience with all of it, but basically, or you,
I find it riveting.
no, it's basically it's like, okay, is it medical? In this case, we're 99% sure it isn't, but I'm going to go get some tests done. I used to be married to a veterinarian, so when this was happening years ago, we got it all checked out. But so that's probably not a medical issue. So then and I didn't think it would be because
So
you would not pay this guy the kind of money that I paid today to find out it's a
is
UTI.
it
Like,
emotional?
oh, it is
Oh, that's
emotional. It is
okay.
it is so emotional. And I I mean I was crying during the we had a 2-hour meeting. This is like literally the guy, and it took me 6 months to see him. But anyway, basically, no, he really didn't tell me anything that I didn't already know just from a ton of research. But
So it's
well, I'm not.
exactly like therapy then.
Um, it was, you know what it was? He validated everything that. So it is just
It's
like
so
therapy.
much, yeah, you
Yeah,
just described a therapy session.
I knew a psychic who was actually she's pretty famous in the psychic world, and even though she's probably full of shit, because
Yeah.
I think all psychics are probably full of shit.
Yeah.
But she's a lovely woman, and I won't mention her name just in case she listens, and I'm sure she doesn't. But she said that I went to a book signing of hers, and she said most people just come to me and want me to validate their own suspicions about themselves. Like, should I do this? Should I do that? So anyway, the cat behaviorist basically did the same thing, but it was nice to get a professional veterinary opinion from a guy in the white jacket and and to even get in to see this guy. This is no exaggeration. I had to answer probably 100 questions, and I had to draw a schematic, a blueprint essentially of every room of our house. We have 2 floors, so I had to draw and you don't realize what a pain in that is. I mean, I didn't freehand it. I used like a piece of software. You actually have, I mean, you had to give him so much information, and then he would thought about it for a few weeks, and then when we met with him, he's like, okay, I have some questions. Like, it really is pretty remarkable.
I
Like,
mean,
to yeah.
like he won't even accept, will he accept a freehand drawing? Or was it
Well,
more
I'm sorry.
like,
Will he do what?
I mean, will he accept a freehand drawing or were you trying to
You
make
know,
sure
I
you got in? Like,
Well, here's the thing. No, I'm sure he would take my money no matter what.
uh-huh.
But I'm like, I'm paying. I won't be able to get my girlfriend an engagement ring for another 3 years. But I'm not going to. Like, I'm not going to shortcut this. Maybe this is the lynch. Maybe this is the vital piece of information he needs. So I went to a website and drew a wireframe of every. It was just a big hassle. But anyway, so the good news is, and this is what's so funny. So we got this 6 months ago. We finally got the appointment with him, and I have to do all this work. And then every book I read, and it's so simple. It's like, okay, clean the litter box twice a day. And she's 6.5 years old. I have probably never cleaned the litter box more than twice a week, which is terrible. And lo and behold, as soon as I started cleaning it twice a day, problem magically disappeared. But I already had a pretty sizable deposit down on this thing,
Yeah.
and maybe it would have been a medical issue, and in that case, we would have had to put her on Prozac, which she's already been on. But that's one of
So
the
it's really laziness is what it boiled down to.
total laziness, and it cost me a fortune to. But you know what? I am very motivated now.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I should talk about you because you're not on this call to hear about my cats peeing on our shag carpet, our shag rug.
Right.
By the way, the best. I'll mention this one last thing. One of the suggestions, and there's more to it than this, but essentially said she really only marks in one spot, which is on this really nice rug that I'm at my girlfriend's place, and it's like 9 by 11 rug. It's a big rug. And he says, you can clean it, but she may be conditioned just to go there, and it probably a good idea just to toss it. It's like $1,000 rug, and it's just, yeah, you should just toss it, which is probably true. We probably should. And you should have seen my girlfriend. She just about wanted to kill me right there in the room. And I was like, okay, yeah, we'll think about that. And I knew as soon as I get into the car, she's going to stab me with her
Oh,
keys,
totally. Yeah.
because she doesn't like cats. So that's fun. Um, so I am enough about my domestic
I
problems.
feel a lot better about my own life now. I'm so glad that I learned about your cat because
I'm glad I could make you feel
thank
better
you.
about you. I am talking to Harmony Hobbs, and normally there's not this kind of buildup, but I had to get that that out. I've been, and my girlfriend is literally about to kill me. And then by the way, we walked out. And this is the last thing. We walked out, and she goes, "We just spent, I won't say how much, to basically validate everything you already knew." And I said, "Well, yeah, but I didn't go to medical school, so that's good. We gotta." And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, you know." So Harmony Hobbs is our guest, and she's a full-time mother of three, navigating the waters of motherhood without any grace or finesse whatsoever. I don't think that's true, but that's what you wrote. A fan of strong coffee, red wine, and sturdy undergarments. Her work is self-described as honesty and insanity in one fell swoop. Her writing has been featured on Babel, Today Parents, Scary Mommy, The Mid, Mama Load, Mamapedia, Bon Bon Break, and also in a couple of books. Scary Mommy, it's Guide to Surviving the Holidays. That's Jill Smokler's book. And Jen Mann's, one of her giant, amazing anthologies, I Still Want to Pee Alone. And for more, she can be found online at her website. Oh, God, I just lost your website.
I can say it. Can I say it?
Please.
It's www dot.
First of all, hold on. It's not www.
Oh, come on.
I'm on your site right now. There's no www. It is modernmommymadness.com. I knew it was three M's. I knew it was the alliteration, and I
God,
wasn't sure.
I'm telling
Modernmommymadness.com.
you.
You love alliteration.
I do. And I love to say www because it makes me feel so official. And
It does, doesn't
it's
it?
like, I guess I'm stuck in 2002 or something.
Well, no, and if it showed that on my screen as I'm on your website, I would have allowed it, but it does not exist on your site. That has been removed.
Okay.
But that's
Yeah.
okay. So we're talking to Harmony, who I met. We were just earlier today. I was 98% sure that I had spoken to you directly, but had not before.
Right.
The first time was at after the Blog University Blog U event 2015 at the airport bar, where I just happened to be sitting directly across in the terminal. You guys were being cool and drinking a mimosa or something in the cocktail bar, but I was
You had a Diet Coke.
I did have a Diet Coke, but somehow I don't. They must have been like, oh, that's that one dude who was at the conference, and I don't even. You guys must have sent me a message
You're
somehow.
so tall. Like yeah, you were the like one lone dude at the conference, but you're like 6 feet something.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
six three.
uh-huh.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so it's not like you're easy to, I mean, we spotted you and I don't remember what happened. I guess we were like, hey, we have a long wait. And you're like, yeah. And so we talked about Twitter.
Yeah, we did, but I do want to mention that, and it was really kind of you guys to come over or to send me a message to say come over or however it was done
I
because
think we
I would
waved.
maybe you waved. I'd like to think it was more. It was
It
more.
was not techno. What I think we waved and yelled.
No, I honestly think you guys sent me something, but that's possible. But either way, I didn't know any of the three of you, and I was honored because it's weird being a guy at blog conferences because there aren't many of us, but also I'm always like extra careful to not ever do or say anything flirtatious because I would never go to a blog conference for that reason anyway, just because it's I mean,
Yeah,
number one, I have a relationship, but number two, that's just seems like an expensive way to like flirt with moms, which is a kind of
exactly.
a weird move. But I would never even have come up and said hi in a million years. I would have never said hi to you guys because I just always feel like, oh, if they're doing their own thing, and so it was really actually quite nice to go, oh,
Oh,
come on over, and it was very sweet. And it was funny too because I had heard about you all throughout the conference. People had said consistently your name. I kept hearing your name. Like I'd overhear people talking because nobody talks to me during the whole conference. So I just listened to what everyone else is saying as I'm walking from. Honestly, I get like no, because again, I'm the weird guy that's there. So I kept hearing Harmony, Harmony, and so. And then when I met you, and I was like, "Oh, she's so nice," and everyone was saying how nice you were. That was sort of
oh, that's
and then
nice.
how funny you were, as well. So
I think it's
let's
just the
talk.
accent. Like my accent makes
It
people
helps.
automatically think I'm nice, which I kind of am. I am nice, but you know, the accent helps.
Yeah, so let's talk about where you're from and how you got started with your blog and you also have a super famous meme that I want to talk about,
Okay.
and I have some thoughts about it, which is very interesting. But um, let's where did you grow up?
So I was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and that's where I live now. I've always lived in the South. I went to a really small conservative boarding school for high school, and that was in Mississippi. So, I mean, I've always kind of been like in the deep South. My parents are from the South. So, my husband and I, when we got married, we moved to Birmingham and we lived there for like 7 years. But once we started having kids, I was like, I can't do this without my mom and my mother-in-law.
Sure.
So we moved back to Baton Rouge. I guess it's been almost 4 years ago. But that's actually why I started to blog because I've always been a writer, but then I kind of fell out of it just with, college and trying to get my life established. And once I had our first child, I was still working full time as an insurance adjuster, which, by the way, is completely a soul sucking, horrible job. Like, if you ever have an insurance claim, like your house floods or whatever, and you have to talk to someone on the phone, just imagine they're in a mauve cubicle and they hate their job. Like, it is. It is so much like what it looks like on TV. But anyway, um, so I started a blog and it had a different name at the time. I called it Working Mommy Madness. And I started writing, and people really responded to what I had to say because I was just like, this is like bullshit. Like, people make it sound like you can totally like go to college, and I'm probably going to get like stoned or something for saying this out loud. But like, people are like, oh yeah, you can go to college, get married, have babies, have a full-time job, like kick ass. You can totally like rock everything because you're a woman. And that for me was not the case. I thought I was going to lose my shit, and I kind of did. So I started writing, and it just grew from there. But it was very therapeutic, and it was free. So it's not like I had to pay $80 to see a therapist to talk about my angst. Like, I could just write about it. And then other women were like, "Oh my God, thanks for saying this out loud." And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah, you're right, and you end up finding like-minded people,
yeah,
which is essentially a version of a support group, really,
yes,
and also friendships. And I think, it's so funny you mentioned you can. I feel like that's in the zeitgeist in the last maybe 20 years. There's been a big push to sort of tell women you can do
it's
everything,
such a
and
lie."
it's such a lie, and it's such a lie. And the one phrase that I wish never would have caught on, which is, I don't know, that maybe it's kind of time has passed at this point, but you got this. Like, every woman was saying, there was a million blog posts called "Go, you got this, girl," and it's
Yes,
like, I always wanted to say, how about you don't got, like, and I don't mean that in a condescending way. I mean, what if it's okay to not be in control
exactly.
of everything? What if it's okay to sort of not have your shit together
Right.
and not be Superwoman?
Exactly. That's that, you know what? Like, that pretty much sums up what I'm about. Like, I want to say that I can do it all, but I'm like the worst at doing it all. When my blog and my writing took off last year, and by the way, I have to credit Jill Smokler. I like love her. I sound like a crazy stalker, but I swear to God, like, she let me write. Like, she took my submission when I submitted to write for Scary Mommy, and this was like back before they didn't pay or anything. I just wanted to be published on her site, and she
Right.
published me, and she invited me to submit to her anthology, and a whole new world opened up to me, and I discovered, oh my God, like, there's all these people like me, and I got involved in all these writing groups, and things kind of took off. Like, that was great personally, but my balance of caring for my children suffered, my marriage suffered. I mean, it's very hard to kind of keep all those balls in the air. I'm terrible at it. So I don't know. Maybe there's people that are better at it than me, but I feel like it's important to say it's fine to be a hot fucking mess. Like, that, it's fine. It doesn't mean you're a bad mom or like a bad human. You're just normal. That's,
Well, yeah, and it's called honesty,
yeah,
because because and it's so funny. I always say this. I lead a little. I have a like we don't call it a support group, but I have this group that's kind of a meetup thing, but it's anyone can come. And I always find that one of the biggest challenges people have is the ability to be able to go, you know what? Like for example, let's say you didn't really like yourself very much at this current moment.
Right.
If you had a overall negative, the every book and media message and even your friends, all well intentioned, are going to say, you're great, you're the best. And I always say, what if they're right that you are fine? What if it's okay to feel like a piece of shit for now?
Right.
Like, is it okay to go, you know what? I feel like a piece of shit. I'm going to work. I'm going to try to explore that and figure out
Yeah.
what that
You have
is.
to let
But
yourself
I'm
feel
not
it.
right. Right. Well, that's just it. And yeah. So let's talk. It's funny you mentioned Jill Smokler, who runs Scary Mommy. Although I don't know, does she still run Scary Mommy? I'm not.
She's
She's like,
she's in charge of it. I believe she's
gotcha.
like the president of it.
Right. So it's still hers.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I get turned. I rarely at this point. I rarely ask anyone to be on the show because I don't really care that much about it to really go after huge names. But there was a time
Thank
when,
you so
well,
much.
I present company
I'm
excluded.
just picking with you.
No, no, I'm sorry. I that really didn't
No,
sound
it's
great.
amazing.
Oh,
Keep
I
going.
am such less of a big deal than you, so take that for what it's worth. Um, but and I'm talking about like
I got it. I
the
got it.
yeah.
I swear to you, I'm
So
just making
without saying names of
right.
people who have turned this show
Yeah.
down, it's everybody,
Right.
with the exception of like in that stratosphere of the Jill Smokler is Jill Smokler. Like, and it's funny because she might actually be at the very top of that mountain anyway, or she's certainly one or two notches below the very top. She's right there.
Yeah.
And in the stratosphere of the people who actually earn a good living from doing this
Right.
and built a business. And it's so funny because I never even thought to ask her because everyone 10 notches below her turned me down.
Yeah.
And so I reached out. I was talking to a friend of another blogger. She goes, "You should ask Jill Smoker." I'm like, Jill Smoker doesn't have time for me, and she doesn't know who I am anyway. It's
Yeah.
like she literally doesn't care, doesn't need me, doesn't. And she goes, "No, no, no, shoot her." And we were Facebook friends, but she said, "Shoot her a message." And I said, "Okay," and I hate to bug people, and I did. And this was like 2 years ago, and she goes, "Yeah, no problem. I'd love to do it." And then I never followed through because,
What?
well, I was busy
You
or
need
whatever.
to
I mean, it
you
wasn't.
need to follow up now.
Yeah, I know. Before she like retires with,
Yeah.
on a big pile of money and doesn't like goes into seclusion or something. But it is funny, and she was just so. But then I was like, I don't really think I'm good enough to interview Jill Smoker.
She's so
But
nice.
she's super nice, and that's what I love about the industry or the community rather. I guess it's an industry too, but it's just people are pretty accessible, um, even sometimes at the very upper echelon.
Hmm. Yeah, I find the same thing. I've reached out to people, just for advice, or when I had a meme go viral, I was so overwhelmed by what happened. It was just it was overwhelming. I've never had an essay necessarily go viral, but I created this meme, and it was so crazy because my kids, it was when my son was in the bathtub, and I was like frustrated and over everything, and I was like, I'm just going to go make a meme because I do that to kind of clear my head. And I published it on my Facebook page, and I think like 17 million people have viewed it just from my own Facebook page or something ridiculous. And all these like websites were contacting me, asking me to write for them. All this stuff was happening, and it was all at once. And I was like, holy shit, I don't know what to do. And I've reached out to several people that I would think, didn't have time to kind of hold my hand and help me maneuver my way through. And they did. I mean, everyone is super understanding and helpful, I think, to other writers or bloggers or whatever you want to call us.
Yeah, when I first started, I literally had never read a blog, and because guys, there aren't many guy blog writers on the humor space who aren't fathers, or
Yeah.
maybe they're like sports guys, and I don't watch sports, so I didn't know the world at all, so I just Googled funny bloggers, and I came across people like Jenny Lawson,
Hmm.
the blogess,
Yeah.
Heather Armstrong, Deuce,
Right.
Ali Brosh. hyperbole and a half. A number of these people, and I was like, you know what? I don't know enough to know to not contact them because I didn't, but I wasn't asking for anything. I was just, I think, I can't remember exactly why I contacted all three of them. Or actually, I don't think I contacted Ellie Brush, but I contacted those two, Deuce and Blog S, and I don't remember even what I asked, but it was maybe just something really simple and basic, and they both responded like quickly. Now I don't know if they would still have the time to do that,
Yeah.
but I was like, oh my gosh, these are, and then I didn't realize what big deals they were, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
But it's funny about I want to talk about your meme, and I'll post a link to it as well. So if you're you should be able to see this in the notes of the podcast or in the YouTube video. It'll be in the description below. But what I love the most, by the way, it's really funny. Obviously, that's the best part about it. But I love that every other part of it is like it breaks every rule of not only just memes but like just bad design. It's and I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I mean it's clearly effective, and here's why. Because the content is really awesome. The colors are bad. But it doesn't matter because the content is great, and I love that this has 17 million eyeballs on it when it probably any analyst would be like, oh my gosh, you have to cut the words in half.
Yeah.
It's too wordy. It's too no one's going to read it. The colors are bad.
Hmm.
And you know what? And I hope that's not offensive at all because I think it's like the coolest thing
Oh
ever that
no,
you
I don't know.
published
I
this.
don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like I'm not just saying that to be like self-deprecating. I'm being honest. Like I've never taken a design class. I don't know what. I just slap things together, as you can see, and I publish them. And I think it's just funny. I don't know. I find that people respond to what's real. So like I don't know. I think other women in my age bracket, especially mothers, don't really have time for bullshit and they can pretty much see through any kind of bullshit that's presented. And so I feel like when I'm just myself and I don't put any thought into it, those are the things that really take off. I mean, that meme was like an exception. But it's so funny that I know the colors were bad because Babbel contacted me and wanted to run it on their Instagram and their website, but they needed to redo it. The My
Sure.
editor, I love her, but she was like, the art department would like to know if they can redo it. And I was like, I don't care what they do to it as long as I get credit. And they made it look much better. You'd probably like Babel's version better.
No, and believe, and I'm one of those people that I'm in a lot of these private Facebook groups that probably, I mean, some that you're in as well, and it's not as common anymore, but it's still people who are bloggers, and I'm guilty of this. We are like, oh my gosh, the design's not totally perfect on my blog, or
Yeah.
I want to completely redo it, and I've always said I get it. I want something aesthetically pleasing, but that's really more about you because your audience, my audience mostly used to read it from Google Reader when that was still a thing. They weren't even
Oh,
going to my blog,
yeah.
and now Feedly or whatever, if people are still using readers, or they're just reading it from the email I'm sending them. So I always say, yeah, I mean, I understand you want a pretty blog, but at the end of the day, like most people don't really care that
No.
much as long as it's
Right.
readable. Let's talk a little bit about your style and the maybe where how you see yourself as different than a lot of the you know bloggers in the sort of mom space. Do you have a sense of kind of where you fit in and why
Um,
you've become so
I
popular?
think I mean, this is just my opinion. I think that I'm different because I'm honest. I really think that I mean, there's plenty of honest bloggers, but I think a lot of people kind of orchestrate their honesty. I don't try to keep all my stuff to humor only. I have got so much going on in my life that's not that's not funny, and I write about that. Like I write about good stuff, bad stuff. I have boundaries of what I won't say just about, my husband or my kids. I try to be careful about what I reveal, but I also reveal a lot about them. My husband, he's like a huge LSU fan, and he tried to shave LSU into his beard, and he did it in the mirror, and it was backwards, and like
Oh, that's amazing.
it was so amazing. And I was like, I have to write about this, and he was like embarrassed, but I did it anyway. And I mean, there's things I'll do, but like I have boundaries, but I think I just don't give a shit. I really think that that's part of why people relate to what I say or do because I don't do sponsored content. No one's paying me to blog. I don't want to be paid to blog. I will sell my essays like when I freelance. That's a whole nother thing. But my blog and my voice, I will not answer to anybody else. And I think I try not to get sidetracked by what everyone else is doing. I think a lot of bloggers tend to get kind of discombobulated by the noise and all of that. And I really don't have time to get sucked into that because I barely have time to write. I have 3 kids. So I don't know. I mean, I really think that that's what it is.
I I think you're right, and I think there's something else that you probably wouldn't say, or maybe I don't know that you would have even thought of, but I know this about you in the little interactions that we've had, and because I've heard other people say it too, but it's certainly a conclusion I would have come to about you is I think you're popular in addition to being a great writer and being an honest writer is because you're also extremely likable because you're a nice person. And I no and I mean that very sincerely because I think likability is very rarely talked about because there's a huge push for just be yourself. And I always say be yourself, but if you have no friends, then don't be yourself because yourself sucks, right? And
That's
because there's a
hilarious.
lot of honest, well, there are a lot of honest
I agree with
bloggers.
you.
It's just, I mean, look, I've always said, I don't know why they don't teach this. It's really should start probably with mom and dad teaching this to kids, but I don't understand at some point why somebody in the educational system doesn't teach kids the very simple act of if you learn how to smile as you walk through the world and interact with other people, just the art of smiling and being courteous, but smiling in particular, it's the easiest thing. It gets you so
It
far, and you're
does.
somebody who's always smiling. So, or at least,
No,
the
it's
times
true.
I've,
No, you're right. And I think, manners go a long way. And
yes,
people can, I mean, all of that translates into everything you do. You can generally tell by reading someone's work if they're bitter or
right,
if they hate life.
right.
I mean, I,
Well, it's fun. It's funny. But this whole like be, and I don't mean smile if you're in a bad mood, but people who are, just it's so funny. So I had something published on In the Powder Room
I
yesterday, and
read
I'm only,
it.
oh, you
I
did? Oh,
did, and I
cool.
thought
I wouldn't have even,
it was good.
yeah,
I thought it was funny. I liked it.
yeah. I think I'm gonna try to do more of these where I review women's products, not necessarily extreme products like that, but uh, so I reviewed the Diva Cup, which is I don't even totally understand what it is, but it's
I got to be
gross.
honest with you. I think it's absolutely disgusting. I was
Yeah.
pretty impressed that you tackled that topic.
Well, it was just an obvious. There were a lot of obvious jokes in that one,
Right.
but anyway, I got a personal note from the publisher, the owner of the site, Leslie
Mhm.
Marinelli, and I've known Leslie for a long time, and like years and years, we joke around. We have a history of just being, we're not polite to one another. She's a very nice person, but the fact that she said this to me yesterday really was so sweet. And afterwards, I just wrote her a thank you and hey, I appreciate it. That was really kind of you and to post my thing. And I know you guys don't even do guy stuff, so this was really cool for me. And whatever. And I'm just such a huge fan of that website. And she wrote back and she's like, she goes, I have to say you are, and I would not say this about myself really, but she goes, you're one of the most polite people, and as a result of that, it makes wanting to work with you like a no-brainer for us. And I'm sure also, I also wrote a decent thing, but it was like, really? And I said, isn't everybody who wants to get published on your site like super nice and friendly?
Right.
Like they're asking you for a huge
I
favor.
know.
And she was like, well, she's like, some, but not all. And I was like, who, like I don't understand that. I don't even know who those people are. I was like, you have to tell me the names because now I need to know. But
Right.
she wouldn't tell me. But I was just like, I mean, for her to like go out of her way to tell me that I was polite made me realize that most people must not be
I don't
polite.
think they are, and I think a lot of people, writers in particular, are very entitled, and they feel I think really every time a website chooses to publish something that we write, I mean, we're doing them a service, but also they're they're doing me a huge favor. I mean,
Sure.
I'm humbled by that. It doesn't matter where it is, what website. Anytime anyone wants to read my words, I'm just thankful for it. And that's I think some people lack, maybe they don't feel grateful. I don't really know, but I do. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's, and it doesn't mean that things aren't hard, you know, but things are hard for everybody, maybe harder for others.
Yeah,
So I understand the, you know, the person, but I understand people having a little bit of a chip on their shoulder from, you know, from maybe their past life experiences. But I just, the part of me that goes, In the Powder Room is a pretty popular site, and you can't force your way onto it. So why wouldn't you just go? Why wouldn't you at least say a please and thank you?
exactly.
And the fact that she specifically said that back to me again, I just went, I don't think she's just doing this out of courtesy. She's
No.
like really like saying, I can't believe you're so polite. And I was like, isn't, because I write nasty things to her. Like we write sort of mean spirited things, but, and so, you know, but I've known her forever, but, it was just kind of funny. So, let's talk more about you. So what's on the, I mean, aside from, you know, obviously being a full-time mom with three kids and a wife as well, and a writer, uh, do you have any plans for your blog, or is it just keep writing?
Uh, well, it's sort of weird. I mean, I had all these plans. I had all kinds of projects going on, and then I got a concussion. January
Oh, this just happened.
It happened January 4th, so it was exactly a
Yes.
month ago. And
Oh my gosh.
I
Happy anniversary.
thank you so much. A month ago, at this time of day, I didn't know where I was or what my name was. But
Well, let's back up and talk about how you got the
yes,
concussion.
let's talk about that. Well, I had a very long Christmas break with my three children. They are 7, 4, and 2. And so it was I was just really ready for them to go back to school. And it was the day before school was going to resume. And I mean, we're having a great day. And I was standing in the middle of my living room. Well, let me tell you the truth because I'm going to be honest with you and tell you what really happened. I asked my son to take a photo of me because I was going to make a meme about going back to school. And so he took a picture, handed me my phone. I turned my back to him to look at the picture of myself because I'm vain. And this is what happens to vain people. I hope all of your listeners are listening to me right now. He jumped on my back and threw his arms around my neck. I didn't know he was going to jump on me. And I fell backwards and hit my head on the corner of a piece of furniture. And I was, I don't know. It was bad. It was a really bad concussion. I had to go to the emergency room. My son is traumatized. I've just been out of it for like a month. Anyway, so I had to step down from some of the projects I was working on, and that,
So it really affected
oh my
your
God,
your cognitive functioning.
so bad. Like,
So like
oh
how would
my
it?
God. Okay. So okay. So before this happened to me, I was like, I've always been kind of like you just shake it off. You just walk it off. I mean, it's just a bump on the head. Like
Right.
I've never been hurt seriously. I've never had any kind of, I've really not had much happen to me. So I've been very fortunate. And I did not know what a concussion will do to you. It will fuck you up. I have been so confused for like a month, and I couldn't remember my own birthday. I couldn't
Oh my
remember my
gosh.
kids' names. Like my husband, I struggled to like hold a conversation, and I'm so much better now, but I couldn't talk to people. I just spent like a week they told me I couldn't look at a screen, I couldn't watch TV, I couldn't read, I couldn't write. I basically had to just lay in a dark room, which for a writer, that was like the worst thing ever because I was having these really deep thoughts, but I couldn't write them down. And I couldn't remember them. I couldn't remember who I was. Like, it was terrible. And I swear I was thinking like the best things to write about. Maybe they'll come back to me later. But I guess at some point I wrote an essay and I sent it to my editor at Babbel, and then I forgot that I did it until it was published. And my husband was like, "When did you write that? You weren't supposed to be on the computer." And I was like, "I don't really I don't know when I did that." I was
That's amazing.
saying really inappropriate things to the teachers at my children's preschool, and I did
Like what? What can you have an example?
just I was just like I felt like I'd had about five cosmopolitans all the time. Like I wasn't like dropping an F bomb in the preschool, but I would just say like I would talk about yeah, me and my husband had sex last night. Like I was
Oh
just
my God.
it was just way it was not appropriate. And like they all knew what had happened to me and they were just kind of like smile and nod and I'd go home and think, "Well, that was weird. Like why did I say that?" It was just I'm going to listen to this podcast and I'm going to be embarrassed about everything I just said.
It's funny because we just chatted a lot on instant message, sort of trying to figure out timing, and then and this had happened, I think, right when we started talking,
Oh yeah.
and you were real lucid. I would have never. I mean, you mentioned it, and that was part of the reason where I was like, really, this is a big deal because you seem totally normal. So I almost wish I would have gotten some of the
Oh,
crazy.
I mean, like I guess part of me seems fine because my husband, I mean, he acknowledged that I wasn't acting right, but I was still getting up and like doing my makeup, fixing my hair, and he was like, "You seem fine," but that's because I looked fine and I could write.
Right.
I could like correspond via text, but in
Well, but
speaking,
you would trail off, like
oh, it
you
was so
would.
bad. Oh my God. Yeah, I would forget what I was saying. He's,
You would, well, and I always see, I never take that personally or think anything of it because you have three kids, you're busy, and I'm not the only person probably trying to get your attention. But all of a sudden you would just be gone, and I'm like, all right, I'll just and I have a full time job too, so I was like, I'll just. It's no big deal. Like it was never offensive. I
well,
just went,
that's not typical. Usually I don't do that.
well, anyway. It was. So like, I have a question. So if there were times where you couldn't remember one of your children's names or all of
Oh
them,
yeah.
how much anxiety does that first of all, how many seconds before you get the names?
Oh,
Like, are we talking 10
no,
seconds?
I would just be like, whatever. You need to do blah blah blah. Like I would just give up. I just
Oh, you wouldn't try to find
no,
the name in your head?
totally throw in the towel and be like, "You're my kid. I need you to brush your teeth. You, this one." Like,
That's amazing.
yeah. Yep.
That is truly amazing. But you're okay, everything's
I'm
fine?
fine. Oh, so I actually, this is, you'll like this story. So I went to the emergency room when it happened and they did a CT scan. I did not have any bleeding. So they sent me home. And then, like, 2 weeks later, I had this episode where I couldn't see right.
Oh.
I was worried, like, I thought I had a brain bleed. Like all of a sudden, like everything got fuzzy. And so my friend Audrey Hayworth, who is also a blogger and lives in Baton Rouge, my husband called her. I guess he called her because he didn't want to bother my mom or I don't know, but he called her and said, "Can you take Harmony to the emergency room?" And she was getting extensions put in.
Ah!
So she said yeah and left and came and got me and took me to the emergency room and the doctor was like, "You seem fine," because I look fine and I can hold a conversation. But they did another one. I didn't have a brain bleed. He said, "You need to go see a neurologist." So I went and saw a neurologist, and they check your reflexes, and I almost kicked him in the crotch. Like my reflexes are fantastic, they're amazing, and my
Yeah.
brain is fine.
Well, I'm glad to hear, uh, because I remember when you first told me how you got the concussion. I just thought, I just think it's so funny. I think about all my friends and how we grew up, and our parents are lovely people. All my friends have nice parents. And I was like, I think kids get a lot of empowerment these days to like, I'm going to jump on mom's back. Like, I would not, and I'm not, this is not anything about your kids. I just think like, I would have been, I would have never done that. I would
I
have
wouldn't have done
never,
it either. I wouldn't have done it either.
and your poor son now is probably like, I just almost killed mommy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it scarred him for life. But you know what? If that's what it took for him to learn not to do it, then I'll take one for the team.
Well, it just sorry, I'm going to bring this back to me. I just remembered how I was traumatized, thinking I was almost killed my mom, and I just up until about I'm going 5 years ago is when I found out this story was not true. So I'm 39, so this was from the time I was probably five till mid 30s. I honestly believed this as fact. So my mom almost died giving childbirth to me, and I somehow I'm sure she never said it this, she would have never said this because it's not true. Somehow, when I was probably five or old enough to sort of know that she was in a coma for a couple of weeks right after having me. And so somehow I had convinced myself, and I'm sure somebody said something that I changed in my head, but that I was such a rough pregnancy that I put my mother in a coma for 2 weeks.
Oh,
Now, that's not what happened. What happened was the doctor missed the epidural and like knocked it into her spine or something, or, and like the doctor induced a coma by mistake because they missed the epidural. So, which is a much different scenario
yes.
than, and so I was always racked with, even though I never said anything, but I was always racked. And this story was like never officially told to me anyway.
Right.
But I was always like, there was a weird little imprint that got sort of until my mid 30s to when I finally said to my mom, I said, I'm really sorry that happened to you. And she's like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just a bad epidural. And, yeah, it was, I was in a coma. I didn't really, she didn't. And then I was like, epidural? What are you talking about? Wasn't I a horrible? She's like, no, you were fine.
Oh my God.
So yeah. So make sure you have a nice chat with your son.
Yeah.
Explain to him that this was a freak accident. Mommy would have fallen anyway, I'm sure.
Right.
Um, so let's promote you because you are I am you really are one of the nicest people that I've met in this space, and I'm a big fan because you're super funny. ModernMommyMadness.com is where you can find all things Harmony related, and also she has a huge following on Facebook, and I need to figure out how to do more stuff on Facebook, and I'm always so impressed because that is a hard nut to crack, I think. So you have a huge fight, and then I'll post a link to that awesome meme that has 17 million views.
Right.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So what else? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's get back to very quickly before we wrap up. You had these plans, then they got put on hold because of the medical thing,
Yes.
and then are those plans changing? Do you
Well,
have any?
this is yeah, well, I I'm going to continue writing once I fully recover. I'll be writing for Babble and Scary Mommy and the sites I typically write for. There's a few that I'm aspiring to be published on. I'm my work with Audrey Hayworth. We call ourselves Hobbs and Hayworth. We have some projects coming up, and we'll be setting up a Facebook page for ourselves, and I'll be promoting that whenever it goes live. And we really, I guess, I mean, I have things in the works, but I don't want to say them yet.
Sure.
It's sort of that situation, but I want to give a shout out to the Blog U conference, because the Blog University conference, which is happening June 10th through the 12th this summer in Baltimore, Maryland. That's one of the big projects I had to kind of give up whenever I got knocked in the head, but I'm definitely going to attend. And can I say?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you can
and
say.
DJ Paris is a keynote speaker. So
That's true.
this is going to be a super exciting year for Blog U, and I hope that everyone listening considers buying a ticket. But yeah,
It is. My understanding is that it's near sold out, or at least the rooms on campus are almost all sold. There's last I saw there. This was about a week ago. There were like 20 rooms left, and suspect those will be gone soon, although you can stay elsewhere too.
Yeah,
This will sell out no problem.
right.
So it's I always tell people like, and let me ask you this: I know Audrey came with you, and you guys are friends. Um, However, did you before going to Blog U, did you know a lot of the people that were going to be at Blog U, or did you kind
No.
of?
Well, I had met them virtually, but I'd never met any of them in person except for Audrey, and that's just because we live in the same town. But that experience was so amazing. It was like life-changing for me to actually meet my people. Like, I think it takes a special type of person, a creative, weird person to be a blogger or a writer or whatever, and it was just like awesome to meet people like myself in real life. And we were all like so weird, and it was fine, and nobody like judged you for it. You could just be whoever you are, and it was totally fine.
Yeah, I like it. I like it too, and it's just cool because, and also people are pretty open and forgiving for things like political
Oh,
correctness isn't
yeah.
necessarily a super rigid thing when you because we're all writers, and a lot of us are humor writers too. I don't know what percentage are humor writers who go to the conference, but certainly some, and we don't really have good senses of boundaries, and so it's a place where you can say things
Right.
and learn things that in polite society you probably couldn't. I mean, I and it's so much fun to meet other like-minded people. I'm a huge fan of conferences, and Blog U is right at the top of the best. I mean, and I like it because, and I go to all of them really, or at least most of the big ones, and I really like it. I look forward to it more than the
Yeah.
others,
Yeah.
and not just because they were nice enough to have me as a keynote.
Right.
Although that is the weirdest thing. It was so funny. So here's a quick funny story about that. So I'm speaking with a woman named Gigi Renee, who's like an author, and she writes empowerment stuff. And then also David Del Porto, My Life Suckers, who is a huge, legitimate, big time YouTuber and blogger. And so Dava had already said yes, and then they probably asked 25 people who said no, and then they asked me. But then no, I don't know how it worked. But Dava they already announced Dava, and Dava and I are friendly, but I don't really know her. I've never met her in person. But I was joking around saying, like there was like a little competition of things, and I had to write a bio, and I don't have a bio because like you. This isn't how I earn my living
Yeah.
at all, and I don't. It's not even necessarily something I really aspire to. Although if it happens, cool. If it doesn't, that's fine. But I had to write, and Dava certainly has. I'm assuming it's her full time job because she's so successful. So she has this amazing, impressive list of where she's been published and all of her stats, and it's on her bio, and it's exactly what you think to see at a keynote speaker bio. And then people at Blog U were like, "Okay, we need your bio," and I was like, I could make a couple of jokes, and yeah, that's fine. And I said, just so you know, I don't ever reach out to I don't do a lot of that stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm sort of like a little bit embarrassed because I don't like, it was a weird thing because I'm like I don't do this professionally, but I said, what do you want me to put in the space? And they said, just be yourself, which is actually the theme of the whole conference
Right.
is be yourself. So,
Exactly.
and I think I probably do a good job of that. So my bio is I have a decent Twitter following, but that's, other than that, stat wise, that's all I got. So it's kind of like, I just wrote a few jokes, but now I'm like, feel that I have to really come through with this great, however much time they're giving us, I'm not even sure. But I'm like starting to really, because I'm so honored that anyone would ask me to do anything that I try to over deliver, in those
Oh,
scenarios. And so
yeah.
I'm very, very excited. But aside from me being there, even if I wasn't invited or wasn't going, and by the way, I was going as a participant. I had already bought my ticket. I had no idea that I would be speaking. So I say to everyone, and I hate the I can't afford it thing, which I get it. Everyone's on a budget. Figure it out. Figure it out. It's worth it. It is. It is. It's just worth it.
It is.
You
It
know,
really is worth it.
cut back on everything else. I'm telling you, it's as you were saying, it's a transformative experience. You will connect so much more deeply with people if you put yourself out
Oh,
there, and you
right.
will.
Yeah. Yeah, if you go to the conference, you have to make sure to talk to people. You can't like hide in your room the whole time. But
Yeah, and everyone is very nice.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so big things are coming for you, but you can't say them yet.
Right.
So that makes for a fun. I'm glad I brought that up.
Right, exactly. It's a
But but
cliffhanger.
re, well, that's right. We So anyway, we should wrap up, but come see Harmony in person. And I don't know, would you might be speaking at Blog U,
Um,
or
I don't
maybe not?
I'm not sure.
Okay, but they can meet you
Oh
anyway.
yeah, I'll definitely be there.
So until then, which is in June, which is, by the way, June 10th is my 40th
I
birthday.
saw.
Yeah. But until June, if you want to meet Harmony in person, that's the place to do it. But you can read her until then and go through all her old posts. And she's just really funny and really nice and very likable, which she's at modernmommymadness.com. And follow her on
Inst
her Facebook page. And, Instagram?
Instagram for sure. It's the handle is Modern Mommy Madness, and I'm on Twitter. I need to. I wish I could like get some of your Twitter knowledge and like absorb it. I would trade you some Facebook knowledge for the Twitter knowledge.
Hmm.
We'll have to work
I
something
would I
out.
would do that. I'll tell you, I honestly think there's only so much time and space to go around, and I think if you're good at one thing, you stay with
Yeah.
it, because otherwise you're going to put a ton of time into Twitter and your Facebook might suffer as a
Oh
result. I
yeah.
don't
Well, you can't
I mean,
have it all.
no, but you have, been doing very well. But all of these, Instagram, Facebook, um, and you can follow her blog on her blog. So you can get to everything from modernmommymadness.com. And it's amazing. I love when I go to people's sites and they have just a ton of comments, like, and shares. And because I don't usually get comments, which is an odd thing to say, because I do get decent traffic, but I rarely get. Um, it's so funny too. There's a lot of bloggers, I think, that maybe exaggerate what they get, and
Yeah.
there's ways to do that. But then anyone who's competent, who's like an advertiser, can figure it out pretty quickly. But I just like pulled up a random post. It was shared 750 sometimes. This is one of your most recent posts. That is truly impressive. As somebody who's been blogging for 5 years, and that, I mean, if I get 100 shares on a post, I'm like, that's the greatest day of my life. So that is pretty
Thank
awesome.
you.
So read Modern Mommy Madness, and anything else?
Uh, no, I don't have anything. Way to put me on the
Oh,
spot. Sorry.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay. I can cut this out
Thank
so we
you.
both
Yeah.
don't sound stupid.
Thanks.
No, I'm gonna leave it in. But thank you, and say goodbye.
Thanks for having me.